Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our weekly Women's Wine Time, where we get to connect with like-minded, beautiful women. We get to learn about new and interesting things, and we get to experience another wonderful soul. So today, my very amazing, talented, inspirational guest today is the beautiful Rowena from Raising Up. Welcome, Rowena.
Oh, thanks, Jess. This feels very deja vu, doesn't it?
Yes, I will say we caught up yesterday, and it was an interview that was probably supposed to be about 45 minutes, and then we turned into like 2 hours. We just kept chatting and chatting and chatting. It was wonderful though. It was awesome. If you want to catch that interview, there was so many beautiful moments in that interview. You can head to Rowena's Instagram page. You've got it on your Instagram page?
Yeah, so we just go to one of the links, and it's the Facebook group Making Mummy Magic, which is free. It has Jess in there talking about her beautiful and amazing, very layered story, and also other women are in that group talking about their raising up stories as well too.
Yes, which I do want to touch on later, because I think what you're doing is phenomenal. But where I do want to start, and it's the question that you asked me yesterday, which I was like, oh, I need to ask you this. You are also an intuitive life coach.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about what that is for you.
Well, I think we were talking about this yesterday. So when I started doing life coaching, it was something that I always knew I had this little gift, and it was hidden. And I think I'd hidden it from myself from being a young child. But I always thought that everybody knew certain things about people, but obviously not everybody is as in tune with that gift. And when I started coaching women in particular is when I really felt it deeply come in, and feel like I could really see at the women's heart center what we really needed to work on. So they'd come to me and say, oh, I need to work on this, but I knew straight away we're actually going to work on something completely different that was layers and layers that we unravel and do it in that way. And it works for me. I guess I have feelings in my bodies, or I see images. I know we were talking yesterday, Jess, about how it's like a game of charades. So
yes, it was a beautiful way that you explained that.
Yeah, and I also see people at ages too, where there's something that's happened in their life that's made them stuck. So we usually go to that space and work on that space as well too, and then move them forward and propel them through their life, which is just beautiful. It's I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else.
Oh, I love that. But it's not only intuitive coaching that you're doing at the moment. Do you want to share with everybody, what it is that you're starting to do? And, it's a progressive thing, but I'm just in awe. I just think what you're doing is absolutely incredible. I think it's such a beautiful thing what you're doing. Do you want to share with everybody what's coming up? Like, this is exciting.
Oh, it's been a really long process. So I guess I need to tell everybody a little bit about my own raising up story. So why I created Raising Up was after I had my second child, and just before I had a very traumatic birth, and it was a really traumatic time for me after she was born as well too. So I think looking back now, I was suffering from undiagnosed postnatal depression and anxiety, and it was a really deep place of sadness. And I was a school teacher for close to a decade, and perfectionist is definitely a label that I feel. So I couldn't even admit to myself that I was going through that, because it would break the idea of me being the perfect mum. And I think the thing that I needed the most was support. I needed support from other women, and we were talking about this too, is I'd go to mothers groups and I'd sit in these mothers groups, and they just weren't having the discussions that I really needed to have. And I just didn't feel like I had the rite of passage given to me by my own mother for lots of different reasons into my own motherhood journey. And I felt like there was something lost and that huge disconnect. And then a couple of years went by and I was watching women around me and I could see them really quiet, and I knew what was happening straight away. And I thought to myself, I've had this experience for a reason. And then we started developing this idea around a renovation at our house, which my husband, fortunately, is a builder. And I had it in my head that I would gather women, and I have started doing sacred space gatherings now over a year. And I've been to sacred space circle in many different ways with lots of different women too. And there was just something really unique about it. And the biggest thing I guess I took from it was the soul medicine that was birthed through these circles. And so from that journey of being with women and supporting women, I am about to open a purpose-built space. We live on acreage in a beautiful area in Tallabudgera on the Gold Coast. And I'll be holding mother's circles, sacred mother's circles, as well as women's circles, as well as mother and daughter circles, and looking at girls who are going into their own journey into womanhood as well too. So there's a lot unfolding in this space, but I've also had my soul team really push me to tell me as well that it's also time to show other women the magic that I've been developing and developed the skills of, and showing other women how to hold circles wherever they are too. So yeah.
So exciting. I can't wait. I mean, the space is still being done, and you've put videos on your Instagram and everything. It just looks incredible, and I can't wait. And I think that one of the things that I do want to say here is just, for so long, getting your period and stuff has just been, sort of a hidden thing. Like, it's almost like a shameful thing. And it was one thing that I want to change with my girls, that I want it to be a celebration. I want it to be about, it's that step into womanhood, about owning your power. It's not a negative thing. It's not something to be shameful about, or it's not something to be, I get this again and again and again. So I just think it's incredible that you're doing this. I also suffered from postnatal depression with two of my children, and it's debilitating. It's so hard, because on the one hand, it's like, you have this child, and you feel like you should be so grateful, and everybody says, it's a beautiful thing, and becoming a mum, and you should be feeling all these feelings, and there's so much pressure to bond with your baby and breastfeed and do this and do that, and try and be the best mum. But you're sleep deprived. People don't really share what it's really like. And I mean, for me, especially with my first child, I was a single mum. It was tough. Can you try and, can you explain, sort of some of the things that you were feeling, to see, to share what things people can look out for?
Yeah, sure. Well, for me, I guess too, another part of the history that I have been researching and doing a lot of healing on is the mother line, which we talked about the other day too, is healing the ancestral lineage line. So my mother was actually adopted. So she had the disconnect from her mother, and through no fault of her own, she had that disconnect with us as children too. So when I stepped into my own motherhood journey, it was actually really difficult, because I was trying to heal a lot of pain from our family history. And so when I first became a mother, it was a lot of things that I had to recognize that I hadn't seen or felt as a child, but I had seen it around my friends that were with me. And I guess for me, the biggest thing that I felt was I couldn't ask for help, because I would be made to look like I wasn't a good mother. And so my husband and I, we actually dated in high school, and yeah, we dated in high school, and then at the ages he moved away, and around 21 and 22 we actually found each other again, and we were just inseparable. So we were together for 10 years before we had our first baby.
Wow.
So we did a lot in that time together. So, and it was really my mission to live a life before I had a child. And also I had a lot of rules around myself before this baby came. And the first baby, I think it was so beautiful. And when I first had him, I didn't have that instant love feeling. And a lot of things happened. Like I felt a very big disconnect from myself and from my old life, which was very hard because I don't think I knew it was going to be so different to what I was living. And then when I had my second child and I had a very traumatic birth, I think something really happened in me where I had always had a lot of insecurities and felt very broken in certain ways. But it was through my own journey that I learned that I actually had to trust myself. So I feel like, you know how you talk about the crumbling? It was the crumbling and then the rebirth of myself as not only a mother, but Rowena. I was stepping away, and a lot of the times when I do circle, I use goddesses and deities, and I call upon them when I'm creating circles and weaving magic. And I talk about the three goddesses, which is the maiden, the mother, and the crone, and how we use all of them in ourselves to see ourselves as full versions of who we are.
Wow.
And yeah, it's one of my favorite things. And I feel like I really stepped into my mother and out of my maiden. And it was a huge journey, and it's not a perfect one. And I'm not in perfection anymore. I'm in imperfection. So I think that's a part when I started to embrace the fact that I couldn't control everything that was happening outside of me. And I actually needed to turn inside of myself and start to trust that no matter what happened, I always had my own back. That's when I think the perspective changed. Because for me, I suffered from anxiety before I had my first child. And I remember my psychologist at the time saying, look, you are quite, this could happen for you. And I was like, no, it will not happen. I will see all the people I need to see. And this is not going to happen. Like, this is not going to be who I'm going to be. And then when my second child came, who is my angel child, I think she just really showed me so much about who I was as a female, firstly, because when you have a girl, it's so different to having a boy, and I know you will relate to this, Jess. I think it shows you parts of yourself that you had turned off in such a deep way. So she really showed me so much about myself, and she was just so loving. Even though I wasn't perfect, she loved me exactly the way that I was. And I think that really taught me that I needed to love me for exactly who I was and all my beauty. So, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think one thing that, I think we need to highlight here is that there is this expectation that when we have a baby that we instantly bond and we instantly connect with our children. And I was the same. I didn't, particularly with my first, it's not that I didn't love him. I did love him, but it was just that I didn't actually really bond with him and connect with him until about 4 months old. I just felt like this robot, change the nappy, feed the baby, keep the baby alive, And I found it so difficult, obviously, because I didn't have a mum either.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what I was doing. I was really lost and really confused. But the more women that I connect with who are having children and birthing babies, there's so many women that don't just automatically connect with their babies, and they don't bond straight away. And I think it's important for other women, for us to talk about that, for us to say that, it's okay. We're not all going to bond with our babies from day dot. And I think if we take the pressure off of ourselves to be, this perfect mum and have this perfect experience, and some of that, I think, when we do have bad birthing experiences too, there is that sense of resentment too. And I think the child feels that as much as we do too, because I had Josh. He was 42 hours of labour and an emergency cesarean, and it was a nightmare. And then I had a premature baby, which was like, he was just like rushed away. And so that was another whole different experience. And then I had my third child, and it was, even though it was an emergency cesarean, it was a very different experience to the other two, because I got to have her and I got to, hold her and love her and be with her. And it was just, it was just such a different experience. But I want to move now into, obviously we talked yesterday about, many of us do go through the crumblings and the storms. What was your biggest takeaways from that?
I think for me, when I first started to crumble, it was that I never gave myself permission to be who I wanted to be. And so when I stepped away from being the perfect mum, being the perfect wife, being the perfect friend, I think that's when I started to see that I could be something different and something bigger. And so I see this I see this in the women who come to me, is that we have this space of feeling a lot of comparison around our friends, and sometimes that's why we don't reach out and say, look, I'm going through this, or this is happening to me. But I think when I started to really step out and do things more for me, and even though it wasn't the path that I thought I was going to be walking, I was a teacher for 10 years, very well respected teacher in my profession. I was a mentor to many practicing teachers. I would do professional development. There was a space there really for me to be going back into that line of work. And something in me just said, that's enough. Like, that's enough of being the good girl. That's enough of being the perfectionist. That's enough of the trying to be the circle, trying to be fitting into this square. It just never felt right. I had so much stress and anxiety around me, and the same with when I had the kids. And I just thought, if I can just step away from that and create really firm boundaries around who I am and create space for me, then I am able to in turn show other women how to do that too. So, yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Can you tell me a bit more about, you've created Raising Up. Can you tell me about, you are showcasing some incredible women from all walks of life. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you came up with that idea and how you're holding space for these women?
Yeah, thank you. I just really love this space. It's free. It's called Making Mummy Magic, and to me, first and foremost, I feel it's my core, my soul legacy is to help as many women to connect and to know that they're not alone, and that we're all here. We all have our own unique purpose, and we have to see ourselves as whole and not broken, because when we see ourselves as whole, then we make the whole world whole. We can be in our true form. We can step away from our humanness and go into our soul calling. So I feel like showcasing as many women as possible and showing everybody has a moment in their life where it's their phoenix moment, where we come out of the ashes and we raise up, we do the raising up. And it's so funny because I knew that raising was going to be part of this logo. And I knew that it was going to be somehow in there, because I feel like when we're raising our children, we're actually raising ourselves, and they are our greatest teacher.
I do want to say something just quickly. What you said to me yesterday had a profound impact on me. What did you say about birthing? We birth our kids, but they...
Birth us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you just say that again? Because I just think it's so profound.
Yeah, so when we birth our children, they birth us. They birth the real version of who we are. And we don't have to all be mothers to have this experience. So this is part of the triple moon goddess. This knowledge is really ancient knowledge around who we are as a woman, is that we are whole in our youth, in our motherhood, and even in our old age. So we don't have to have babies. We can birth an idea, a legacy around that too. So, there's a lot of ideas around the woman being held in reverence as the younger version. And I feel like when we step through that doorway, that altar of becoming a mother, women feel like they have lost something. They have lost nothing. They're actually stepping into a bigger, better version of themselves. And I read somewhere the other day that we are 8 different people within our lifetime. And it's so true. We really are. Like, I think about the teenager version of me to the childhood version of me. I am so different, but there is these, threads, these really thick threads. And what I find is that as women, when we sit in a circle, we have this ability to see that we all get drawn energetically together. Like, we have already made that soul contract to come and sit together in a circle to show each other's truth. And so when you see women, there'll always be one woman in circle. That circle has been called for her by spirit, by collective, and I can feel them. Before circle, I empty myself out completely and I sit as a container. I can't eat. I will often have all of the emotion of the women coming to hold it, and in my masculine form, I will sit in that. And then they come, and there is one person that has a major breakthrough and delivers the most beautiful soul energy to everybody. And I've just been the container, and then you will see it is like a domino effect across all the women, and it's a thread, and it just is, it's magic. It is absolute magic.
Wow. I think we need more women's circles, because I've only just started delving into this myself. Obviously, when I had my first son, I was a single mother to a biracial child, and I was severely judged and bullied from the other women. So when it came to mothers groups and those sort of things, I was having enough trouble with postnatal depression being on my own that it was like, I can't put myself in this situation. So I completely pulled myself out of those mothers groups because they were just doing way more damage than good. And so it's really taken me a really long time to be able to build that trust up again for women. And I have been to a few women's circles, but just in, researching them and delving deeper into them, and how, drawing on my own experience, being in the Maasai villages, is just this incredible, women surrounding women. And it's tribal, and it's for women to be able to talk freely and to talk openly and not to hide, and for it to be a really safe space.
Yeah,
and
so true.
And I just think that we need far more women. So many women need to be sitting in circle.
Yes.
Really, really do feel that, many of my friends and many people that I meet, they need to be coming together. We need to be supporting one another on this, not only this motherhood journey, but this, this feminine, this collective feminine, this woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so true, because we have this imbalance of the patriarchal system in its, its domination, and we're seeing it being dismantled, with these spaces that as women, we are the flow, we are the beauty. And when our flow is stopped, we feel dry, we feel empty. When we sit together in circle, we can release energetically together. So it is just such a beautiful space. And in saying that, before you hold space, it is really important to know that you have to be vulnerable in that space too. So storytelling is really important in that space. And usually I will have an energetic download before I do circle, and we do this beautiful meditation, and then it will walk the women through in a silent way, a very silent, respectful way. But the biggest takeaway from Women's Circle is not only about learning how to talk. For some women who haven't had their voice, they have to speak, but it is also really good for some women to sit and listen. And there's so much power in that magic of that too.
And the breakthroughs that women would get from those.
Oh, amazing. It's just some of the things that have come forth for the women in that space. It really blows my mind. It makes me so happy and just joyous to have that space for women too. And I feel collectively the space that has been built here is being built for everybody. It's not being built for us, it's being built for everybody. So yeah, I definitely feel the magic.
Oh, I can't wait.
I can't wait for you to come and see it and sit on the couch and be here and speaking too.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. Can you tell us, have you got an open day set yet?
We're hoping around October, November. We're just waiting for a few little things to be finished off. We have to have safe parking space for everybody to park in. But we live in Tallabudgera Acreage, and we have a house. And so my husband, being so grand in his ideas, decided to dig 5 meters. And we have this big, beautiful space that just has glass windows and gum trees on the outside. And in the space when we do have the grand opening, we'll be having a friend who is a sound healer. So she'll be doing sound meditations. And then I have another friend who's a breath worker, which I encourage everyone, if you haven't tried breath work, please do. I'll be offering Women's Circle meditation. I have another friend who is an artist who I work with occasionally to do Women's Circle. We do release through art as well as having women on the couch to tell us all about their raising up stories, which I'm sure Jess will be there as well too, to share her story. So it'll be a grand opening weekend. And we also are building a special Airbnb for mums to have a getaway as well too, which is, I think I need to go, just live there. So yeah, I just feel like whatever you manifest, whatever you see is possible. If you see it, that's your guidance saying, actually, it's possible. Just keep living it. Just keep putting it there into perspective and it will happen. I don't know how this has happened, but it has. So I'm really grateful for that too.
Oh, it's just incredible. There's amazing things. What brought you to do all of this? Like, I know it was, a bit about your story, but how have you gone from being a teacher to just jumping into this space? Has it, obviously it hasn't happened overnight. Has it been trusting your intuition? Has it been, guidance? Has it just been always there?
Yeah, it's definitely always been there. I know my sister's here on the call tonight, but she'll tell you, I used to, when we were kids, would arrange all the neighbours on the school holidays. Like, I'd be like, okay, today we're going to have like a slip and slide day, and then on Sunday we'll have so I've always been space holder. I think that's why I became a teacher too, because it was like the ultimate space holding, position that I could do full time and be paid for it. So I really love sitting back and watching and just seeing people. But I guess, and I remember even when I was in high school, I was saying this to my husband, because we come from a family that were quite, conservative, and also had religion around us too. And I remember on the school bus finding an article in Dolly about tarot cards, and I actually made my own tarot cards and would sit on the bus, and we had about an hour's bus ride because we were in a really small country town area, and I would actually read everybody on the bus. And I remember one of the 16-year-old boys telling me, how do you know all this stuff? And I kind of I went through a phase when I was 20 and it was kind of like a party trick. And then I just kind of went, oh, it's just like, I don't know how I did that. That was just, accidental. But now when I'm with the women and I say, oh, I can see this is happening, or I can see this is happening. And, Jess and I spoke about this too, about how vulnerable you feel speaking it out loud. And they say, yeah, I that's totally right. And you're like, oh, thank goodness. Like, it's a relief too to hear that. But even when I was a little girl, I always remember having a knowing, like I would always know exactly where my parents were. I would always know where they were in the house, or, there was little tiny clues. And I even remember being a very little child and playing games which now I realise it was past life stuff coming out, and it was just me holding the ability to remember and to understand that would be happening. But I remember when I was probably about 13 or 14, I had a very, very vivid dream. And I was feeling pretty lost in my life and, having onset of a little bit of depression around being a teenager. And I had one of my soul guides come to me, and he was walking around with me, and we're in our primary school, and he said to me, he was showing me all the children, and he said to me, I need you to remember that you have a really special light and you're going to shine it. And it's really important you remember this message. So I feel like now this is my full circle moment. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's
yeah.
so cool. And you are holding space for some beautiful women. Can you tell us some of the women that are coming up? Because I know that there's some really interesting women.
Yes. There's so many, there's people just from all different backgrounds, and people like Jess I've just really connected with. And I guess that's really happened maybe in the last 12 to 18 months. I've made these connections with these women, and some are, really close dear friends who have had some pretty full-on things that they've been going through. People that I've actually haven't seen in years have reconnected with me, and they've had their own raising up story that they really feel like there's a need to share. The silver lining is to showcase how you got through that, because your strength can help somebody else, just like Jess's story too. So Jess is in there, which is just it was epic. It was an epic talk. I'm just trying to think that I have a few teaching friends who are in there. Next week, I have a geneticist who's coming in to talk about the mother line, which is really close to my own heart from my own experience.
That one.
Yeah, so she's a very interesting person. So I'm really excited to share about that. I have a pregnant mummy who's coming tomorrow, which is first time pregnant mummy. So Ellen, I think you'll know Ellen Mohan.
Yep.
So she's coming in tomorrow to do a talk. And I've got a few other people lined up too, people that I've just met and who are spiritual leaders or have some part of their story that just really, to me as a mother, if I had heard it 7 years ago, that would have been soul magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why you're doing this, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my legacy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want your legacy to be?
I always think my children are my legacy, which they are, but I just want them to know that they just have to truly just be who they are. And I don't want my my own stuff to get in the way of what they want to do with their life. So whatever I achieve, I want them to still have their own vision in life too. But I just really want to fill the hole with more love where there's a lot of darkness for mums especially. I want mums to stop being at home feeling alone, like they don't have any support, especially women who don't have their partners there often or don't have family around them to support them or help them, or women who have had a complete disconnect from their own mother line and need the initiation into motherhood. And same with teen girls. I want women, my own girls, I have 2 girls, I want them to grow up to be strong, defiant women. I don't want them to think they have to be the perfect mother. I want them to live their life for who they are. I don't want them to hate their life and live a life just for their children. So yeah.
Wow. That's quite a legacy to want to leave. I think that's incredible. And it's one thing, you know, that I really strive for, particularly for my, you know, my girls, is that I don't want them to feel like they have to sacrifice themselves in their own mothering journey or their own, you know, journey as a wife. Yes. And I think for many generations, that's what the woman had to do. You know, she had to be subservient to the man and, you know, the cooking and the cleaning and make sure that when he gets home, you know, particularly from my perspective, and my sister's on the phone on the call tonight too, you know, our parents were very much that traditional. Mum stayed home, mum did all the cooking and the cleaning and this, and dad worked. And there was this expectation. And, you know, I do believe that in balance and that sort of thing, but I think that there is this, I want this shift to happen for my girls, that they can, you know, that it is equal. And these expectations, I just want them to be, you know, demolished, and for them to really not feel this need to sacrifice. Because I hear so many women, they're like, oh, you know, I have to ask my husband to babysit. And you know, I'm guilty of this sometimes too. And it's like, hang on a second, like, that's their kids as well. It's important to take time for us. So important. And that was one of the big lessons that I had to learn in my own parenting journey, was that I felt like if I wasn't constantly, you know, it's hard when you're breastfeeding, particularly.
Yes.
You need that alone time.
Yes.
They're constantly on you all the time. Once I started getting that back, it just changed so much. I do have another question for you. What would you say to a woman or a mother who is, you know, where you were when it was, you know, really hard, you were really struggling? What would you say to her, knowing what you know now?
I would say that take everyone along for the ride, because when you make space for yourself, everybody else will make space too. So I think it's really important, as even now I've committed to some different courses, and you know what it's like, Jess, when you wake up in the morning and sometimes you've woken up earlier and all the kids are up and it's like, really? Like, it's early and you guys all decide you've slept in for the last 3 days and now everyone's up. But I feel like, especially when you're on a spiritual journey, that's something that I have learned, that it's really important to take everyone along for the ride and not to keep it secret. I think when you open the doorway and you step over that threshold, you have to be committed to yourself just as much as you are to your own children, because when they see you committed to you, they know it's okay to be committed to themselves too, and you know, pursuing their own dreams.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I really do. That's just beautiful. So wise.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, well, it's just been such an honor to have you on tonight. I just want to open up. Is there anybody that wants to ask Rowena a question before we go?
I wouldn't say question, but I just wanted to say great talk. I loved hearing about what you're doing, Rowena.
Oh, thanks, Dad. That means a lot. Thank you very much.
Very exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I know there are a few mums or mums to be on here. Nobody has any questions that they'd like to ask? No. Okay. Well, we might wrap it up there then.
I just want to say awesome. Thank you.
Oh, good. Yeah, isn't she beautiful?
Well, the only thing I would say is cherish each day of your child's life.
Yeah.
Cherish it.
Thank you, Trish. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you can, I remember reading a story one time where I was up late one night and I was just an absolute mess. It was like, I think Indy was about, 9 or 10 weeks old, and I just got the girls, and obviously I had the 2 boys, and I was just an emotional wreck. Like, I was just absolutely just crying. I used to cry to my mum, why aren't you here to help me?
Oh.
It was, those moments where you're so sleep deprived, you just feel like this child is on you 24/7, wanting milk all the time. And I remember I was sitting there and I was, getting really down and resentful. And then I was scrolling through my Facebook, and this lady was talking about that her child had died from SIDS. And I was like, I never again want to, she was explaining the whole process and everything. It was just completely changed my mindset, in the sense that I can feel like it's hard and I can feel those emotions, but it's almost like I can blow them into a balloon too, and just let them go, and sit in gratitude for everything that we do have, and for every person that we have in our lives. So yeah, that completely, changed everything for me, that story. Yeah. But Rowena, I just want to say thank you so much for being on tonight. I really do appreciate it. And I think you are doing the most incredible things. I'm so looking forward to watching you grow and watching you shine, and this incredible space that you are holding for these women that really need you. I just think it's just beautiful. And I think you should be so congratulated for that.
Oh, thanks, Jess. That really means a lot. Yeah. I think when we can help another person heal, it heals us too.
And you have such a beautiful story, and you could have made the choice to not do anything, and here you are. You've gone through the crumbling and you've moved forward, and you are such a beautiful example for your children to raise up, and wow, I can't wait to be a part of your journey.
Oh, I can't wait for you to be here. I can't wait to have you on the couch. I really can't. I just can't wait for that to happen.
I know.
All the women too.
Yeah, get our kids together and let them run wild.
Right.
Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. It was an absolute pleasure. Next week, we have a bit of a different guest next week. We are having Olivia Joy. She's a kinesiologist. I have always been intrigued by kinesiology, and I'm very blessed to have had a kinesiology session, couple actually, with her, and she's phenomenal in what she does. She's very knowledgeable and she's very gentle, and she just is an absolute wealth of knowledge. So that's why I begged and pleaded with her. She's just had a baby actually, so I begged and pleaded with her if she could join us. So she's going to be with us next week, and then the week after, I've just confirmed Christina, my stepmom, is going to be joining us again. So I said to her, I'm going to leave it up to her to decide what she wants to talk about. But as you all know from the last time that she was here, she's such an inspiration. She knows so much about the power of mindset and believing in ourselves, and the value of hard work and moving towards our goals. So you won't want to miss that one. She's on the 12th of August. I've just confirmed that this afternoon. Okay, ladies, I want you to have an absolutely awesome week. Take care of yourselves, and you know where I am if you need anything. Until next week, take care.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.